Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do part 2 of our soup segment. We'll be finishing our hearty pumpkin soup. So I have here the pumpkins that we've roasted. Check out my how to make creamy chicken chowder video for details on that. We started this soup in that video. I mentioned that I'm going to use a part of the pumpkin for pumpkin muffins. So I have the smaller piece. I'm literally just going to peel it. If it was still hot, you could scoop it, but as you can see, it peels very easily. And I am going to put it in the freezer until I'm ready to use it. Make sure you take all the skin away. You could certainly puree it ahead of time so that you have it at a grab, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to clump it in here. Second thing, I actually forgot to show you this, and I meant to do this before peeling the pumpkin. I have some pre-purchased yeast rolls. Your favorite brand or the store brand will do. You can certainly make them from scratch. Check out my how to make homemade pizza video, and you could use that dough to make your own yeast rolls. If you don't want the dairy in it, just exclude the milk. But it's a yeast roll nonetheless. So here I have these rolls. I want to go ahead and get them proofing and in the oven. They need to be proofed first, but they can be rushed in a warm oven. And I'm just going to put the oven on its lowest setting, which for my oven is 170 degrees Fahrenheit. And I am going to wrap them with plastic first so that they can steam. And to prevent them from forming the skin, I'm going to also brush them with a little oil, and that'll also help with browning as we're baking them. You don't want to give them too much space. Just like baking biscuits, you want them to be slightly close, but not so close that they're stuck together unless you want a pull apart roll. So, okay, and you want to get them back in the freezer so they can stay IQF, which is individually frozen, so that you can pull out what you need without having to take out the whole batch. I have my olive oil, and I'm just going to brush these little guys. Alright, I'm going to wrap them and put them in my oven to proof. It may take about 20 minutes, but you want them to double in size. So I'm going to leave my oven on for the first half and then turn it off and just let them stay in the warm oven. Back to our pumpkin. Now we have our savory portion. Remember the one we seasoned? And I'm going to load it right into my blender to puree. Okay, pumpkin's all clean. Great thing about lining pans with foil, it's easy cleanup. Now also, I began my quinoa already. You can check out my how to make Mediterranean brain bowls for more details on how to boil rice or any similar grain for that matter. Quinoa cooks just like rice. So here I have a bulk bag of red quinoa. I added a little bit of the chicken broth base, a little bit of my garlic puree, a splash of olive oil, a few sprigs of fresh herb. I have thyme and rosemary today, and seasoned it with salt, pepper, garlic, onion powder, and a little Italian seasoning. It's just going to be one of the toppings to go on our soup. We're also going to include lentils in there. You can use whatever you have. The soup is very flexible. You could interchange these things as you see fit, but this is what I'm doing. As you know how I do, I work with what I have. So here I have my pumpkin, and it needs a little liquid to help it puree. I have my homemade stock, well, broth rather, that we made in the creamy chicken chowder video. Yes, it looks a little cloudy because the fat solids have solidified. See? It's just a little chicken fat, but I'm gonna add a bit to help this get going. About a cup. I don't purposely measure while cooking, but that is the ratio. Just remember, recipes are method based. Once you get the foundation, you can tweak it and adjust how you see fit. So if you need to modify, you need to thin it out a little more, no problem, do so. All right, so on the blender base we go. All right, I have the remainder of all my little peppers from last time. I didn't use them all in the chicken chowder so that I could have a portion for this soup. So as I mentioned before, the foundations are very similar. You have to have aromatics, and that would be those root vegetables that give you flavor. Peppers, celery, onion, carrot, garlic are all essential. I'm just going to rough chop these. You've seen me do this many times. I have one random little tomato. I'm going to puree this guy. Now let's begin with our carrot. Everything has been cleaned. Have all my veggies I'm working with here. They're rinsed and ready to cut. We have our peppers done. Let's do our carrot. And I think I'm going to do these in half moons. Actually, I think this time I want to dice them. No, I'll do quarters. So I want this to be a quick dinner. This big fat one. We'll just make similar sizes to these. The key is consistency so that everything cooks in about the same time. Okay, I have a couple of pieces of celery. I don't actually want celery in this soup since I'm doing it more like a puree. So I'm just going to cut these in half, and I'm going to let these steep in the soup as it's cooking when I get to the point where it's simmering, and then I'll fish them out later. Now we'll go to our mushrooms. I'm just going to put them right back on this tray that I'm working from. I like to pat them dry after cleaning them. You do need to rinse off your mushrooms, in my opinion. I'm just going to trim up the stems, and I am going to add these stems to my broth bag because they have a really nice, hearty, rich flavor. This will also be a little topping for my soup. Almost ready to go to the cooktop. We just need to chop our herbs. Remember, tidy as you go. Everything's been washed. The easiest way I find to cut herbs is to grab it by the bunch and shave off what you need. I don't have any stems. Some rosemary, have some thyme, Okay, we're going to begin with our aromatics. I like to warm them for a few minutes to wake up the flavors. So we're going to start on medium heat, 4 or 5. Add olive oil, some of our chopped onion, butter, and flour so that we can get the flavors going. And then I'll add a little bit of my chopped herb. Added about a 1/4 cup of onion and a few tablespoons of the pepper. Now we'll wake up our seasoning. You can season this however you like. You can go savory, you can go spicy, you can go even sweet and savory. But I'm just going to add a twist by adding a little coriander, granulated garlic, onion powder, salt, pepper, and an Italian blend or herb blend. And I'm going to add a little bit of our chopped rosemary and thyme. And just fry this until it smells nice. Now I'm going to add a little bit of our garlic puree and the flour to form the roux. Remember, you can do this to your preference. If you don't like a lot of garlic, you can exclude it or reduce it. But remember, garlic is really good. Stir that around to wake it up. Don't let the garlic burn. Okay, I'm going to add some all-purpose flour. I'm going to do double than what I did last time because it wasn't as thick as I wanted it. So I'm going to add about a cup and a 1/4. And I may need to add a little more oil, although it's not really necessary. You just really have to work that roux a lot more to prevent clumping. The rule of thumb is equal parts flour to fat, but I don't really like to use quite as much fat. I'd rather just be patient and work in that liquid. Take a peek at our rolls. They're almost doubled. Let them keep going. You don't want to overproof them though, because if they become too large, then they'll deflate when you go to bake them and they'll be flat and tough. So be mindful that you don't overproof. That's why I said you can turn your oven off about halfway through. Now I'm going to put my temperature on low, just like when we did the chicken chowder. And I'm going to slowly work my liquid in so that it does not clump. I made my garlic puree. I like to get every remnant, so I put some water in there and slosh it around so that I can get all of that garlic out of the jar. If you can, reduce your waste. Soup is a really great way to do that. I'm going to work that in. I'm going to do the same thing with my broth to get the remnants. For this soup, I'll be using a combination of cream, broth. We have our pumpkin puree, and I also have some chicken stock concentrate to enhance the water that I'm adding in. So literally the water I'm adding will turn into broth. I'm going to add about a half a pot of water for that purpose. You can add up to a half a pot of stock, or which would probably be about 2 cartons, whatever you like to do. I find it more affordable to buy the liquid concentrate because, as you see on the bottle, it makes up to 28 cups of broth, a much better value. So now let's take a look. I have everything in there, and I am just going to work that liquid to incorporate and dissolve the flour. And once I do not feel any clumps or crusties at the bottom of the pot, I'm going to increase my temperature back to medium high to bring it to a boil, because we won't know how thick it is until it reaches a boiling point. And from that point, we can thicken it if we need to. In this case, I really don't think we're going to need to add any more thickener because I upped my flour, so I wouldn't have to make a slurry towards the end. And also, our puree is nice and thick. That's a natural thickening agent. So if you wanted to keep this soup vegan, you can swap out the chicken broth for veggie broth, and you could eliminate the butter and just use olive oil or coconut oil or avocado oil, whatever you like, to compensate for that fat. And you could also add in some rich, creamy coconut milk to give you that creamy consistency. But I honestly don't think you'll even need it because the pumpkin puree is so thick and rich. So that would add a nice viscosity to the soup by itself. I'm going to move to my whisk now. I feel a little clump in the corner and I can't get it with this wooden spoon. It smells really good already because we toasted the spices and we added the nice fresh garlic and woke everything up before incorporating with it. Remember, you want to always build flavor. It doesn't have to necessarily be complex, but if you take the time to do those extra steps, you will really taste the difference at the end. Just crank her up. I'm going to also add in a little cream for richness. Again, you can exempt that if you want to. I'm probably going to add about a cup of heavy whipping cream. You can have double cream or regular heavy cream, whatever you prefer. And we'll just bring this up to a boil. In the meantime, I want to show you my quinoa. I started this in the beginning. It's really nice. It's fluffy. I've seasoned it. I put herbs in there. What I'm going to do is just taste it. Add a little oil for sheen. Just a little bit, like a quarter teaspoon or so. And see if I need to adjust the seasonings. And this will be one of the toppings for my soup. It's going to increase the nutritional value of the meal, make it nice and hearty, and really it'll help it to be filling all by itself. So let's taste. It does need more seasoning. You would just adjust that to your preference. I'm just adding a little bit of ingredients that are going into our soup so that they mirror each other. Add a little garlic puree. Put the lid on it. It stays warm. Put it to the side. Oh yeah, our rolls are there. They've almost doubled in size. You see? I'm going to let them sit here for a few moments before I unwrap them to bake them. Just let them increase in size a tad bit more while the oven preheats. Oh, it's getting thick here. Once I get the thickness right, then I'll add the puree and modify it. I'll be able to see if I need to add more liquid once I've added that pumpkin puree, or if I need to thicken it, which I don't think I'm going to need to thicken it at all. If I had some bay leaf, I would have added it, but I don't. There are many times when we're out of something and we just have to make do, so there's always more. I'm also going to add a little bit of this chicken broth base to compensate for the water that we added. Follow the instructions on the bottle, or you can just add it until it tastes nice to you. Okay, let's take a look. We have pretty much come to a boil. Well, we're getting ready to, and you see how much thicker it is? The consistency is really nice, and I am happy with that consistency. At this point, we're going to add in our pumpkin puree. I'm going to turn it down so it can stop boiling. I don't want to get scalded by the hot cream-based soup. So now we'll put our nice crispy rolls into the oven. See? They have literally doubled in size. Working the pumpkin in. And the color will soon start to change to a pale yellow. And if you want this even more yellow, you can add a little turmeric to brighten it up. And turmeric is also really good for you. I just might do that. My consistency is beautiful. So now I'm going to start to get those aromatic vegetables in. The celery whole. And we will pluck it out later. At this point, I am going to move this over to the smaller burner so that we can saute the veggies. Okay, I have a new toy. I have this nice ceramic skillet here. If you were hosting and you had a vegan in your house that you needed to feed, or vegetarian, you can make the soup base all veggie, and then you could do the ground meat after doing the mushrooms so that they could have that mushroom as a topping. Olive oil. I have our clean and dried mushrooms. The key to doing mushrooms is not to salt them until the very end. Just like cooking, zucchini or anything that's high in water, the water will leach out with that salt. Salt pulls out moisture. So we will allow our mushrooms to brown first, then we'll add the salt. Put some flavor on these mushrooms. Again, reinforcing what we're doing. Add a little of the coriander, a little bit of my Italian herb blend, I like Mediterranean food, if you didn't notice. A little pepper, granulated garlic. We'll add the fresh garlic and they're almost done. If you add it now, it will burn. And don't forget to periodically stir your soup. Set a timer on your rolls if you're not good with multitasking. But my nose kind of tells me what's going on. I'm going to taste my soup to see where we are. Look at how nice and creamy it is. It's perfect. Oh, it's really good. Now I'm going to try to put them in an even layer so that I can achieve browning. Remember, browning is flavor. Our lovely soup. Look how nice it is. One thing I forgot to do is put our lentils in. So now that it's cooking gently, the flavor is really good. I know it doesn't have to simmer a long time because we took the steps to do extra things to help develop flavor. I'm going to add in my lentils. It can be whatever color you like. This is just what I have. I'm going to be mindful not to increase the temperature too high so those lentils can gently poach in that liquid. Alright, you could even add some navy bean or something to that effect. Make this a chunky soup and add more diced chunky veggies if you want to. Oh, I forgot about our butternut squash. It's actually frozen, so I'm going to thaw it in the microwave so that I don't affect the temperature of my soup and slow down the progress. My rolls are almost there. Let's take a look at our mushrooms. See if they're brown. Oh yeah. Getting there. Rolls are ready. Don't they look good? Let's turn my oven off. Sit these to the side. I had my drained butternut squash. I also ran it under some warm water just to make sure they were thawed completely and not excessively watery. And also, I think I want to add more lentils, so I'm going to add another 2/3 of a cup or so. point, we're going to add the rest of our veggies, our diced pepper and onion, because we're almost there. We're very close. Those lentils won't take long at all. And since I added the cold squash, I'm going to turn the temperature up. Not enough for it to boil, but enough to compensate for what we just added that was cold. I'm also going to add to my mushrooms a little bit of our chopped herb blend, and I'm going to add some of this to the soup as well. Now to my mushrooms, I can add the salt. Since they've browned, I'm going to also add a little of our garlic puree. Now to really make this a fast version, you could boil those carrots while you're doing some prep so that they're par cooked and add them in, and this could literally be a really quick meal. Because remember, when we did the chowder, we sped up today's soup by preparing our pumpkin and doing our broth. So that really helped us to achieve quick food prep today. Okay, beautiful brown and golden mushrooms. I'm going to set these to the side in the same dish. The same skillet, I'm going to brown my sausage. So I have here some chicken sausage. I've just removed it from the casing. Make sure if you are eating kosher that your casing does not contain pork. Now, they get a little tricky in the stores. They try to trick us. So I have the sausage. Just one of my favorite chicken sausage varieties. I'll try to remember to post the link so you can see what I use. Just so you know, I covered our rolls slightly with plastic wrap, leaving the corners open so that it would not make condensation. But I did that just so they would not get hard, and so they would also stay warm. So now with our sausage, we're just going to break it up. This skillet is so awesome, I really don't even have to add oil to it. This is a ceramic skillet. Just break that sausage up and cook it completely. As you can see, it's nice and thick and creamy. At this point, really, we're waiting on our vegetables to get tender. We're waiting on those lentils to cook, but the flavor profile is pretty much there. Okay, I'm going to add a little turmeric to my soup, about a teaspoon or so. To my sausage, let's season it up. Fresh herb, let's add some red pepper flakes. For a little kick, just a pinch. If you want it really hot, you can add more. I like to crush the dry herbs a little bit just to wake them up. Also, I place my mushrooms in the warm oven for making those rolls. The oven is turned off, but I'm going to use it to keep my toppings warm. They're beautifully golden, and I am ready to add my garlic puree to that, and it's done. To my soup, I'm just going to stir in the things I've added. Search for a carrot to see if it's there yet. But look, isn't it so pretty? Nice and rich and creamy. I'm going to line that half with a napkin to drain the grease. And go back into the oven to stay warm. The soup is ready. I tasted it and my carrots are tender. So I added the rest of my herb. You know, once those carrots are tender, it's done. My lentils are not completely gone. They're still there. now I'm going to fish out my celery. You could have cut the celery and put it in there, but I just didn't want to this time. It's a preference. It's a nice, hearty pot of soup. It is very pretty, very fall appropriate. And that's that. I'll meet you back over at the counter so we can plate. I'm going to ladle up our soup. Yummy, yummy. Also for our rolls, we'll use a little bit of our garlic puree with some of the Italian seasoning. You could even add butter. But I'm just going to keep it extra virgin olive oil. Blend this together. And now we'll brush it on those rolls. They're still warm. Your toppings could certainly vary from mine. I love mushrooms, and I'm doing mushrooms, and we eat meat, and I'm doing chicken sausage. So I'm going to top these. Our seasoned quinoa is warm and ready. We'll add this on as well. Just like that, we're done.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember to hit that bell.